All right, guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing some RTA, and the plan here is to do all matches completely YOLO. In fact, it's not just normal YOLO, it's 4 DPS YOLO RTA. So we're going to look at the pick bans, we're going to talk about YOLO RTA as a strategy, and hopefully this will be interesting for you guys. So looking at the first pick bans, I'm going with Ciara as my first unit in this comp. And she brings the speed lead, she brings a lot of damage, and you all know all about Ciara. The plan is if I see double immunity, which I will quite frequently, I want to bring 2 buffer movers who are also damage, and then I'd like to bring some sort of attack buffer as well to give myself a little bit extra attack. So here I brought Ciara, he brought Perna, so I went Molong, and Fran, and then Ager, who's one of those units that I've been working on a little bit. So let's see how it goes here. Let it rock and roll, and we'll talk about YOLO RTA as a concept. So you'll see a lot of cleave RTA, people trying to cleave with Lucians and Zyros, and their buff removal is AoE, it's Tiana, that sort of thing. Usually Tiana, sometimes Gemini as well. This is a little different. This is single target full damage RTA, a little bit different. It relies on single target strippers and single target DPS. Ciara is sort of the centerpiece for it. I might have some matches where I don't get Ciara, and if I don't get Ciara, I'm struggling because she is the one-shot kill potential. The goal is to basically set up a 4-on-3 as soon as possible and just apply pressure relentlessly, and not let up. Things like this one where the stun was in my favor. That's what you want. You want to have single target control, single target damage, and just slowly push them down faster than they can get you down. The Ager is really, really nice with the buff removal, even the double dots. The brand is, quasi defense break. His own heal, his own speed up is all really, really nice. I think I included this match because it has a really funny ending, if I remember correctly. So we're feeling okay here. I wish I had a little more health. I'm lucky that the Leica didn't do too much damage there. We get a full heal on the Ager, but then that one was a crit. I think it was a non-crit before on the Leica. Fran gets a nice little stun. He heals up a little more, gets the brand. Another massive hit from Leica, because everybody's dead, so he's just getting stronger and stronger. And there he goes. So now it's just Fran and Leica, and we're just single skilling. That's why I like this one. We're just single skilling all the way down, relying on the multiple stuns and just being faster than the Leica. So that's our first match. We'll move on to the next one. And I think this should be an equal selection of wins and losses. So you'll see the pros and the cons of this format. I don't think this type of playstyle is maybe a great way to climb and stay into Guardian, but it's definitely fun for messing around. I mean, we're week 1 into the season, so if we're not going to play around here, when are we going to play around? Like, you just can't be serious the whole time. So looking at these picks and bans, he goes Gani to open, so he's opening with probably his normal team. I go Molong Perno, which I like as an opener for this style because it could be a more mid-range control team, because Molong Perno is a reasonable mid-range strategy. He goes Sierra Water Monkey. And then I go with the Ager Ethna, and he knows at that point we're pretty YOLO, because that's 4 YOLO units. So he counters with Vanessa Triana, which I think is a really nice counter for this comp. And I go with Bastet this time, try that. Little attack boost, bar boost, and shield. So let's see how it goes. The nice thing that I think is great about single target kind of YOLO teams and Cleave in general is your team. Your team is locked in. It's every time. There's a couple variations if people steal parts of it, but you know what you do. You hit hard, you go fast, you kill things. So I think it's one of its best strengths is it negates your own ability to screw up the picking process. Oftentimes I'll get into a match and I'll realize, oh, I messed up. I forgot this crucial component that makes my team go because I was so caught up in what they were doing and stuff like that. This eliminates that entirely. You pick the same thing every time. You know what you're doing, and you just try to execute it as best you can. And you kind of dare your opponent to counter you, which I like. There's no stress in the pick ban. You're just like, okay, you pick whatever. That's fine. That's fine. Maybe a little bit of variety, but not a lot. You kind of have these units set up, and that's all you do. So I really think that's nice. I really think also putting the pressure on your opponent is smart. Its strength is also, it doubles down in its strength. You know your team, you know your units, whereas your opponents often, they realize what's happening, especially in Cleave, they realize what's happening and they have to counter it immediately. They have to figure it out, which often means they're picking outside their comfort zone. They're picking not their normal team. They're picking maybe not their normal units, which as soon as you get someone to pick outside their normal set of units, you're getting their weaker rune sets, right? Like if I'm forcing you to pick a Tessarion, and Tessarion's not your normal monster, he's not going to have your best runes, which is great. If you can get them to pick lesser rune monsters in any format, you're doing great. So I think that's another strength of the YOLO pressure kind of teams. This was a loss here. The Vanessa Triana was too strong. It delayed just enough for him to take control of the match, and he had a little bit more sustain, and that was all it took. So this is an interesting one, the way this one's opening up. We'll take a look at the picks here in a second. What's his last pick? Oh gosh, that thing, Celia. So I open Sierra. He goes Gani Triana, which is interesting. It's not your normal Gani Hathor. So I'm thinking, oh, this guy's going to go a little more YOLO, but maybe that's his fastest unit, the Triana, and he knows Sierra's a problem or something. I'm not sure. I go Perna Fran, which is another type of unit. The Fran doesn't have the bar boost, but does have the attack buff and the immunity. Super nice. He goes with Molong Jean, and then I realize, okay, he's not YOLO. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, but you know that at that point. And so he's using the Tiana to clear out all the immunity and stuff for the Jean, which is interesting because he didn't know I was bringing immunity beforehand, but this is probably just what he does. And then I go with the Helena because Helena's a pretty nice response to this team, and it's an AoE defense break. And he has shown me 4 units and no immunity, so I know that I don't need to pick immunity, because if he picks immunity last pick, that's who gets banned, right? So I know I'm all in. I don't need to do anything about immunity, so that's where Aegir is not in right now. I bring the Ethna just for more AoE pressure, AoE stuns. I can be a little more AoE aggressive because immunity is not going to be a factor this time. So let's continue. I ban out the Gani just because I don't think I want Gani Jean shenanigans. And I don't want Gani to get so much tempo against my team. I don't want him to reset something and then take my whole bar. Though he's taken a lot of bar with the Celia anyway, which is a bit of a problem. So yeah, going back on, I guess, the main cons of this team is if your opponent recognizes what you're doing and picks correctly, you pretty much can't win. You've been locked out of a win. There's no violent procking in the late game because there is no late game. You are early game, you are maybe mid game, and that's it. So the con is if you get outpicked, they see what you're doing, they just have great counter picks, you lose. So just accept it. Don't think, oh, if only blah blah blah. It's just you lose, and that's what this comp does. Sometimes it loses. So it's kind of comforting in a way. You're like, oh well, not this time, and you move on to the next match. This comp, I think, its strength is that it can play a lot of matches quickly, and it's relatively tilt free or minimal tilt. So we won that one. Let's look at this next one, which I like. You win or lose early. There's no, oh, I outpicked him, but then he procced 3 times. Maybe sometimes that happens, but what's happening is basically just because that's how the game goes in this team. It's just quick. All right, so we'll look at the pick bands here as soon as we get his last pick in. So I open pretty similar to the last time. He opens with an immunity, so I know I need to have something to deal with it. I bring my double immunity, anti-double immunity at the end with the Aegir and the Ethna. He has a lot of really nice tanky units and 2 forms of sustain, which is a bit of a problem for me in the Iris and the Fen Yang. So let's see how it goes. I've been out, I want to say the Fen Yang. Yeah. Fen Yang's cut through everything like butter, element regardless. So unless you have some form of immunity or sustain, Fen Yang will eat you up. So I can't have any of that. I mean, I'm not a fan of Diana, don't get me wrong, but Fen Yang is going to be a big issue. He gets the Oblivion on my Perna, which is not what I would prefer. I start pumping damage into his Diana. He goes, this is sort of interesting. I mean, I'm not a Diana owner, so I don't know exactly how it works, but he Dianas into the Molong, which I think if you don't crit, you don't get bar. So I was thinking, oh, he'll go into the Perna and probably get a kill, but he can't risk it because he won't get enough bar, and he might be locked into the Diana. So just something to note. I get a nice little proc there and kill water versus wind, so yay me. My tanky Perna is actually paying off for me here. It would be dead with not that HP on slot 6. We're able to get the Oblivion off, so we get our whole extra life. Good job, Perna. And he's working on the Molong, which is kind of in my favor because Molong and Perna are my tankiest units. he hasn't really tested my other units, but he's wailing on my tanks, which is letting me move further into late game than I would if he went after Ethna or Aegir. There goes Wolong. We're 3-on-3. Not a great situation for my team because he's got that sustain. And now Perna's down. Ethna's still taking a beating. I've still got a somewhat of a shot, but I need Ethna to get going. I can't have her locked out. And she still can't do any skills. She's Oblivion, not that that matters, and she's getting wailed on. And she's stunned again. So in terms of the stuns, her getting locked down kind of took my ability to have any sort of a comeback there. Like, 2-on-3 isn't a great situation against a team that's tanky with sustain, but I might have had an okay shot, maybe. But no, we're definitely done here. So there's another loss. A couple more matches to look at. And we'll stop it at the pick ban and talk about what's going on here. See our first pick every time. Tiana Oki. So that Tiana Oki signals to me heavy control. Tiana's really nice at clearing everything out for units like Oki and Jean and stuff like that. So I went with the Bastet this time, but maybe if he's trying to go control, I should have gone with the Fran. Give him something to look at in terms of immunity. But if he's going to ban my attack buffer, it'd be the same team in either way. So nice to open up going first. I went with the third skill on the Diana, hoping for a stun, which wouldn't have mattered anyway because the Tiana would have cleaned it all off. And had I gone for the second skill, then Diana would have gone next, which I don't know if that's better or worse, but I would have crit enough for Diana to go next, so that's what would have happened. Diana going nuts and just murdering my Sierra. That's a nice little cleanup on the AoE, so he gets a lot of free damage on the other units while still getting his primary target dead. Get a nice little defense break action with Ethna. Oh, so close. So we have to... I was going to say we were going to use the Perna there, but we can tell turn order-wise, Ethna's going to get a turn here. So we're going to save that Perna damage for something where it can actually be used, which is, you know, over a third of Ganymede's health. So we'll just clean up with the Ethna. Little efficient on the damage. Trying to be efficient here. Perna down. Now we're on 203. Not a fan, especially with the Gani on the other side. Ethna is trying her darndest to get it done. Luckily, we've got two multi-hitters here. So if we're going to get that Garo down, it's going to be via multi-hit. One of those two units is going to multi-hit him down. Another nice double defense break, no stuns. And she misses her defense break. Now they're all defense broken, so I just need a little bit of AoE. But I am off turn for that, so... Ethna gets killed by Garo. Finally get the Garo kill. And the thought I had there was I could use third skill on Gani. I'd be really low. He'd be dead. It'd be a one-on-one against Tiana. Is that worth it? I decided no. If he had not extra procced there, it might have been the correct choice. But with the extra proc, he locks down my skills. That's his highest multiplier, and then I'm way behind. So there is a loss. And it looks like the final match coming up. 4 DPS. It's pretty fun. I definitely enjoyed messing around with 4 DPS. So he opens Wusa, which doesn't matter at all. Actually, any form of immunity is better for me than not, because I'm going to bring my double removers. And so it's sort of a dead pick just sitting there. I'll let the immunity sit there. I finish off with Fran. I ban out the Diana, just so I can use my AoE with Ethna. And he's got a lot of control, but I don't care at all about that Wusa. We fully remove on the Oki, get about a third of the bar, and get a lucky little proc there, and Sierra finishes. I think there's a more efficient single target that I could do. I don't know. I think I could do a little bit better in terms of rotations if I wanted to. Like, use the removal, then follow up with a defense break, and that makes the Perna more valuable, right? But the Sierra doesn't need a defense break, so maybe it's not as important. And there is a lot of defense break in this team. It's just not turn 1. I'm using my defense breaks as buff removers. In terms of units that remove and defense break is the Bajir, which I'm going to get some Bajir trials going too. Because I want to see how that Bajir works. No one's going to ban a Bajir, so I want to see how Bajir into Perna, into even into Taegor. I mean, that's a kill. That's turn 1 kill. So I want to see how that works. All right, so that was our final match of the set. You know, just 4 DPS, a little bit different. Thought it'd be fun to dig into and look at as a technique. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care, everybody.